clumsy. All right, so
we here.
all right, hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kiera Shanice, and I have with me
Michael Johnson.
Michael Johnson. We are both teachers here in Kuwait, so we're going to be talking about our experiences as teachers living in the country of Kuwait. I am an elementary school teacher, and I teach grade 4, and Michael teaches, or sorry, not teaching.
Yeah. So I am. I'm the associate dean for the School of Education at American International University. So it's a university out in Jahara, which is kind of. I'm not sure what direction that is, but it's an American style university. It's fairly new. It's only been around for a couple of years, and they started a School of Education to make teachers, and so I'm the dean of that college.
All right. A lot of y'all have been asking questions about like what is the teaching lifestyle like. I've already talked about housing in some of my previous videos, but we're going to give you kind of the different perspectives because he's at the university and I'm at the elementary school level. So we'll be talking about like the workload, the hours that we're working, the types of students that we're interacting with, and those types of things. So without further ado, you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right. Anything you want to share before we get
So
started?
let me first say how I come to be here. So I'm on YouTube and I'm scrolling looking for videos about Kuwait, and I see Kira's video and I see her page, and it just caught my eye. And she's from the States, and so I just started following her, and then somebody in the comments said, "Hey, what's your IG?" And she posted her IG, so I friend requested, and then I'm like, "Hey, it'd be fun to do to be on your show, right?" She's famous, she's popular, so I'm gonna be with the cool kids, and so she
Not at all.
she accepted, and then this is how we came to be here. So I'm excited about just kind of joining the opportunity.
Thank you for sharing that. So first things first is your job title. I know you kind of went over it, but kind of elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, so I've been in education since 2002, so right at 20 years, and I've been at the dean level since 2010.
Dean.
Right, like a big deal, right? But all it is it's just it's like being a principal for adults, right? You know how you have a principal for K-12 kids. It's just being a principal for adult students. So this title is Associate Dean for the School of Education. So technically there's a dean and there's associate dean, although for my school there's not a dean because it's a brand new program, brand new school that they started. So they brought me in as the inaugural dean for the School of Education.
All right, awesome. So on the flip side of that, I'm a grade 4 teacher. I don't know if I told you that or not. So just like any other teachers, I teach anywhere from ages 8 to 10 typically, and you usually won't find very many students in Kuwait that have been like held back or anything like that, so that's the average age range of my kids that I teach. So next question, for you, what was the hiring process like at the university level?
For sure. So it's a kind of a cool story. I have a LinkedIn page. I keep it pretty active. I was working in Dallas, and October 15th, I got a message on LinkedIn from a recruiter. And they're like, "Hey, we have an opportunity for a dean position
In Kuwait?
Kuwait, right?"
Did you like put that you wanted to be
No.
in Kuwait or?
No. So
Huh.
in fact, when I read it, I'm like, "I ain't going to Kuwait," I just dismissed it. And they said, "You need to reply back by November 2nd." So
Okay.
a friend's like, "Hey, you should really reach out to us." So I sent the message. Remember, I was supposed to reply back by November 2nd.
November 2nd, right?
December 13th, so I sent a message to the recruiter. I said, "Is it still open?" They replied back right away.
Wow.
And they said, "Yes, please send me your resume." Sent the resume. I had an interview December 15th. She liked me. And then then Christmas came, so I had my second interview with who would be my boss, the associate vice president, the chief officer, whatever, on January 4th. I got offered January 13th, and my first day was February 13th.
Wow.
Right?
Okay. See, that's a little bit different because from what I know, and I think it's the consensus at like most elementary level schools, and really K through 12. So basically, all of these schools, they start hiring in like December.
Okay.
So you go through your process, submit your resumes, and that's a tip, y'all. If you want a job in the Middle East or just overseas, start submitting your resume like early on December-ish time, because that's when they start recruiting for the following school year. So they start hiring in December. So you doing your interviews. Like my interview with my school, I actually applied late.
Okay.
I'll get into that another time. But I was working at another international school here, and it wasn't working out. Virtually.
Okay, gotcha.
So I applied late because I didn't know if I wanted to leave or not, and just when things weren't working out there, I was like, okay, you know what, whatever. So I applied in like February-ish, and then I didn't interview, and it took like 2 or 3 weeks for me to hear back. Interviewed in March, got hired. The whole process took like a week for them to send it up to their higher ups and senior leadership team. Got my offer. And then that was that. And then after I signed my offer, then the paperwork started. And obviously, like I said, we don't come until the following school year.
Okay.
They're not bringing us. Sometimes you'll find those elementary level positions where they're hiring immediately.
Yeah. But
it's few and far in between. So usually, if you sign this year, you don't start until the next academic year.
Okay, so let me interview you real quick. So 2 questions. Number 1. What made you even want to do international education? Like, where did that come from?
I knew this question was going to come up. So
the people want to know.
The people want to know, obviously. So, okay, initially, I was dating my ex. And I believe in transparency. Y'all know that. So I'm going to tell y'all, this is what you all been waiting for. I was dating my ex. He flew me over here. He's a contractor.
Okay.
Flew me over here in 2019. At the time, I was in healthcare. No, actually, I was in education then. Yeah, I was teaching them. So, flew me out here, and he was like, "Hey, I got this job. You know, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Okay," but it was in the medical field.
Okay.
And I'm like, "Okay," I applied for it, but then as applying for that, I'm thinking like, why would I go back to medical when I'm currently in education?
Gotcha.
And I started looking up, opportunities to work here as a teacher, since that's what I was currently doing. And when I tell you, like, I was mind blown by all the different opportunities, because I really didn't know. I was just ignorant to the fact that this was an opportunity, something that I could do or whatever. So that happened, and for the first year, I taught at a brand new international school. It was a good experience with my students. The school shall remain nameless. But they weren't open and honest about everything that was going on or whatever. So I got stuck in the States basically.
Okay.
I was teaching at night, so like 1 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, just that whole thing. Right. And then they were supposed to fly me over, never did. And I was just tired of it, but by then I was committed to the fact that I wanted to be overseas. I just really liked the whole autonomy of being able to teach the way I want to teach and that type of thing. So I applied for a different school and got hired. And
was that during COVID when you were doing online? Was it during COVID time?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
So I started working there in 2020. Yep.
Okay, okay. Yeah. See, now you know the backstory.
Now y'all got the story. I know everybody been wondering. All right, let me see what's next. Okay, so we talked about the hiring process and onboarding. What do you think about your benefits package? Like, kind of describe to me what that looks like.
Yeah, so if I can go back real quick. So part of that hiring process, like I said, I'm working with a recruiter who works for the institution, and she's kind of giving me the lowdown about how everything works, the paperwork, all that jazz, right? And she goes over the benefits and pay. So I had to do the conversion of getting paid in Kuwait dinari and what that means for US.
Right.
And the no tax. So if you look at my salary in the US was only a few $1,000s less than it is here. However, in the US I only see like 70% of that, right?
Right.
So
the
taxes
and rent,
insurance, rent. So the stuff that's actually in my account is only probably 70% of what I saw back then. So they say you come here and you get your gross, right? I'm like, pay me my gross, right? So like they actually pay you your gross.
Oh, my money.
Like pay me my gross. And the fact that housing is
included.
Yeah.
That's a whole.
So that made a big difference in my decision because on paper
the US, figures look.
Yeah, they're pretty similar.
Right.
But once you like factor in all those different things, I mean, I'm like, it's a big difference of what I actually put in my account here versus what I put in my account back home. So it came with housing was covered.
Okay.
And then also free healthcare.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that's pretty similar to ours, and I think that's pretty standard. Ours, we have our housing included, healthcare, and we also get a round trip flight. So we get a flight coming to Kuwait and then a flight leaving for the summer.
Yeah.
So you guys.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
So when I came here, I had to pay for my flight myself, but when I landed, the HR, they met me at the airport and they gave me they reimbursed me in Kuwait dinar.
Right. Yes. Thing. Describe your typical work day. Like, what's your workload? The expectations of you working at the university.
For sure. So as I mentioned earlier, so at the university there's like 6 or 7 different schools, like the School of Arts and Sciences, the School of Business, etc. For the School of Education, it's brand new. So our first our first class started in the fall of 2021. Second class started in the spring of 2022 when I came on. So it's new. We didn't really have any faculty. You know, like I said, I was the founding dean. So me coming on board was really trying to kind of help establish it, start to develop some different, policy and paperwork, and then bringing on faculty. So I spent, like I said, I came here February 13th. I've spent the first 12, 13 weeks, like kind of just understanding the system.
Okay.
Right?
Now, did your school offer you like any type of training?
No, not really, because like when you become at the dean level, you don't really get training anymore. Because if you're a dean,
I just think that's kind of everywhere now. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
they just kind of say
they just say here you go,
there
right?
you go.
So there's not like I had an orientation on the first day. That's an HR orientation that says, don't do that, can't do that, that kind of stuff. And then show me around campus, give me my office, and people come in, make sure I get access to log in and all those different things. And just start attending meetings. And so there's not like a real formal training. It's more so just understanding like the systems, understanding what terminology they're using. Probably the biggest learning curve is the language barrier, right? Like,
that's true.
I can barely speak English, so trying to come. So my Arabic for you.
Okay, all right.
So if I'm gonna say excuse me, I'm gonna say afwan.
Afwan, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. No.
And since you are a female, I'm gonna say Nisa. No, how would you say it?
Habibti.
Okay, so I think that's Kuwait. So like one thing I've learned.
There's a lot of dialects.
Oh my goodness.
There's a lot of dialects of Arabic. You will not know all the different dialects of Arabic. Definitely need to download that one. So, so you described your work day in a nutshell. What are your working hours? I know we're in Ramadan, and in my last video, I talked about that Ramadan is the holy month here. So typically, work hours are shortened during that time, anywhere from a half day to just a couple hours. But what are your normal, standard working hours?
So normal hours for us are Sunday through Thursday. I work 8 to 4:30. And then every other Saturday I work from 9 to 1.
Oh, so you have to go in on Saturday.
Yeah. Every other Saturday is 9 to 1. So when you first get hired, you got to do it every Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah, which it's even though it's 9 to 1, it kind of throws you off because
you lose a day.
You lose a day, right? Like you're like, you work Sunday to Thursday 5 days. You get that one Friday off, but when you work Saturday, you're like, I gotta be at work tomorrow for the next 5 days. So it totally throws me off. I'm like, man, it seems like this goes by pretty quick.
For me, our standard working hours are 7:30 to 3:30.
Okay.
And typically the kids don't get there until I think it's 8 or 8:30. I've lost track of Ramadan, and then we swapped schedules a couple times this year because of COVID. So from having to go from online to face to face, and then all that good stuff. So yeah, normally it's the teachers are there from 7 to 3:30. The kids are usually gone by 3.
Okay.
So you have your afternoon or whatever, and then on Tuesdays we have our PD day. So we are required to stay an extra hour. Sometimes we'll have where we're just planning in our rooms, and then other times we'll have actual professional development meetings and things.
So in your school, what is the age? The grades?
We have K through 12.
K through 12. Okay.
Actually, no, we have. I think we have preschool, but it's a whole separate school. And because of COVID, I know I say that a lot, but we haven't been able to intermingle as a school as much because we started out with the cohorts, and if you're in KG, then you have to stay down in the kindergarten wing. All elementary is here, and middle school, high school is there, and you're not really supposed to cross paths. And I think because we started the year off that way, everybody just kind of still maintained
Yeah.
it, you know, and COVID isn't technically gone. So they still kind of, you know, using the same precautions, just kind of, you know, trying to keep people not separated, but just still being vigilant.
Then what about the mixing of genders?
My school is a mixed gender school.
Okay.
I actually had another offer at another school and I turned it down because I think for developmental purposes, as an educator, I think that it's important for students to be able to mix and to mingle with opposite sex or opposite gender.
Yeah.
So, and you know, no offense to those who feel that shouldn't happen, but I think that's critical to a child's early years development. So.
Yeah, so it plays out now in the college level because most of our students are Kuwaiti. Most of them grew up, they went to public schools, and which I think it's mixed in primary, but once you become intermediate and secondary, it becomes separate. So, but then you come back to college and it's mixed, right?
Okay.
So, but if you go to a classroom, girls sit at one table, boys at another table.
Right.
And it's not required. I mean, we're not. There's no assigned seats. We don't separate them. It's a natural selection. They separate themselves.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, which is fairly interesting. And I do classroom observations, and I'm like, why are everybody sitting like that? And they're like, that's just how they choose it.
I have a friend. She teaches at an all girls campus, and for her, she said she really likes it, but sometimes, you know, she wishes she had that excitement that the boys bring, and I think it just brings a different dynamic and even like a different thought process to the classroom, because boys and girls typically, they analyze things a little bit differently. So the conversations that we have are, in my opinion, and I've never worked in a same-sex school, so I can't really say that's just what I would think. I feel like the conversation is a lot more enriched because you get that different.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, like it's there's something to like a diversity, whether it be ethnicity or gender, class, whatever, and it's just different perspectives, right? So you're gonna get it from a different lens, and there's some things that are probably missed out when they have one particular group, whatever that group may be, in that conversation, right?
Right.
Mixing that group up, yeah.
Yep, I agree. Right, so we're winding down a question. So what was your first impressions of Kuwait as a country? I actually haven't answered this myself, so.
So I will be careful what I say, all right? So there's a couple things. So two things. I flew into Dubai first. Dubai's airport's like a palace. Immaculate. So please
wow.
never sing.
Oh my gosh.
I flew to Kuwait's airport, and it's not. It's Dubai's airport, okay? It's not. It's a much older airport. So here's the funny thing. I had 3 big suitcases, and they came off last, and I vacuum sealed all my clothes so I can.
Same.
Right?
Okay.
I get all the way ready. I'm trying to get through customs. The lady's like, "Come over here." Takes me over to the side.
No, they didn't unvacuum.
Opens all of my suitcases, unvacuum sealed all of them, dumps them, shakes them, and then she walks off. She's like,
And I know that trying to get all that back in.
it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. So my very first impression was like, I cannot believe it. And then I get picked up by HR, and they drive me to. We live in Samia, which is, you know, it's like a city, different blocks. Some areas are better than others. Everything's safe in my opinion. It's just some things that look like it's not safe, but it's safe.
Right. Okay,
So,
agreed.
Right. So we get to where I was in a particular block that does not look safe at all. It looks like third world country, to be honest with you. And so when we pull up, and I'm like looking around, like this is it. They're like, this is it. So it was a culture shock. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. And then I get in my apartment, and immediately the mosque is right by my window.
I knew it.
The prayer goes off, and I'm just, it's like it's a culture shock. It's just like, ooh, okay.
And it's loud.
Oh, it's very loud.
It's not bothersome. It's really loud. And if you're not used to the prayer goes off, I think it's every hour, and it starts at like 3:30 in the morning. So, and if you're not prepared for it, especially if you're outside, it's really, really loud.
Yeah, if you walk up to a mosque and the prayer's going on, I mean, the speakers are blaring,
Yeah,
right?
it blares.
So it's just, if you've never experienced it before, you'll be like, whoa. But now, I've been here long enough now, I don't
You
even
wouldn't even hear it.
The scariest part ever, I'll tell everybody this now, is driving in Kuwait.
Oh. That's
Driving Kuwait may be the scariest thing I've ever
experienced in your whole life.
in life.
And walking, trying to cross the street while others are driving in Kuwait.
It's like nothing you've ever experienced before. It is. It's two things. If you're riding in a taxi in the back seat, it's you're holding on for dear life. I will say driving actually you feel safer because you have more control. But when you're in a taxi, you're in the back seat, and they're like, and there's roundabouts. There's no street. It's not street lights. There's roundabouts.
Oh my god.
So it's until you come here and experience it, you've never seen anything like it.
I always try to tell people, because people, like, when I got ready to come here, they're like, oh, aren't you scared? I'm like, no. And after being here, I'm like, I'm more scared of getting hit by a car or dying in a car accident than I am of somebody stealing my purse, you know, being kidnapped, whatever the stereotypes are. I'm way more scared of those types of things. So I'm glad.
Yeah, it's.
I'm glad somebody else can kind of co-sign.
It is incredible. I would say Kuwait's probably the safest city you'll ever go to. It's super safe.
It's very safe.
And very family oriented, right? There's families are everywhere, and you know, it's if you have a family, raising a family, it's a very, very safe city. Raise a family. I mean, people will leave bags out, and no one's going to take anything. I mean, it's just.
Exactly.
It's really, really safe. It's surprising. I mean, it's normally safe, right?
Right, much safer than the U.S.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna kind of wrap it up. Do you have anything else you want to share?
No, this has been great. This has been a really good experience. I feel like I could be talking forever.
No.
Yeah. This is cool. So I'm glad. Thank you for the opportunity to.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, that's cool.
But thank you guys so much. Again, make sure that you like and subscribe to the video, and I will catch you next time.